if you're willing to give it, you got to be willing to take it, right? And Deborah Kamen blocked me on Twitter, on Instagram, etc. So if Deborah Kamen wants to debate me, I would be happy to.
Just in case someone doesn't know, who is Deborah Kamen?
I can tell them. Yeah. She's a gaslighting New York Times reporter who spews lies all the time about our industry.
I don't think that's her actual byline, but it's close enough. It's close enough.
You talk about it privately, we talk about it publicly. This is the Real Estate Insiders Unfiltered podcast. Welcome again to the Real Estate Insiders Unfiltered podcast. I'm your host, Twiggy, along with my co-host, Mr. Crazy Uncle Keith. We're laughing because it's a Friday for us. And
it was that was a podcast, kids.
We had Anthony Lamacchia on. You know him from the debate with Michael Ketchmark, as well as a strong advocate for the industry. And he was extraordinarily humble and quiet and non-opinionated on the show.
Yeah. Oh, man. Anthony Lamacchia is a good time. I think we asked him two and a half questions in 45 minutes. Pretty much you just turn the lights on and let that guy go, and you're going to hear some things. He did talk about that debate with Michael Ketchmark, his experience of commissions post-settlement in his brokerage. He may have took a shot or two at our friend Rob Hahn along the way. He talked about what NAR should do about the negative press. He gave us exactly how he talks to his clients, or he recommends his agents talk to their clients about CCP. And basically, we just got to have this guy on once a quarter so he can rant into a microphone.
He did come out and say he wants NAR to file a suit against the New York Times. So
yeah, trust me, kids, this one isn't boring. You will enjoy this one. Just hit play, sit back, relax, and put it in your ears, kids.
Anthony, welcome to the podcast. Finally, my friend Anthony is here. Long overdue. Man, I don't know if people didn't know who you are, then they've been living under a rock as well. But we always start this out.
Wait, hold on. Hey, Anthony.
Yes.
What's that on your desk? Is that the new Compass exclusive listing book that they have in their offices? What is that?
No. This is the Greater Boston Real Estate Board MLS book from 1980.
Oh, so same though. Same.
You said it, not me.
I mean, say it.
I literally just had someone in my office and we were joking about this, saying, imagine doing business this way. It got updated every week. And I'm sitting in a very historic building that I purchased 5 years ago because it became a real estate location in 1958. So they used these books. But to my shock, another company is going to start using real estate books, and this is how good a shape it's in. Another company is going to start using books, and I guess that's Compass. No, literally, the cover, the front and back covers are gone. And if you remember, when I debated Ketchmark, remember he's going, it says right here, it says $1,000 fine if it gets shared, if you're not part of the club. Remember that? So I remember saying to him in my rebuttal, I said, Michael, those books were used when I was in junior high school. Well, I guess here we are 15 months later, and they're making a comeback.
You know, I said that I literally said this was going to be the show that's going to get us canceled, and we haven't even made it. We haven't even made it 2 minutes in, and it's already off the rails.
I don't even think we got to Anthony's last name, and we're already rolling. Anyway, sorry to interrupt. Anthony, tell us a little bit about your background. You've been in the industry a long time.
Yeah, I'm coming into my 21st year now. I grew up working with my dad in landscape construction. Worked with him right out of high school. I was not a student. So when Rob Hahn makes comments like, well, where did you get your law degree? I'm like, dude, I barely graduated high school, but I'm still here. But yeah, I did landscape construction, and then I got out of that in 2004, got into real estate, and just started as a realtor. Sarah, who I'm meeting with in an hour, I started with her. I had a business partner, and then 10 years in, I bought him out, or 9 years in, bought him out. And converted the company to a brokerage model from a team model in 2015. And here we are today. We're I don't know, top 100 brokerages in the country. We're going to do about $3.5 billion this year. When I was running the team model, we ramped it up pretty good. James, I was on the phone with our friend Leo the other day, and I was telling him how I still hate to admit it, but when I had a team and he had a team, he was edging me every year. And I said, I think I got to like 26 in the country. He's like, I got to number 3. And I'm like, I don't think it was quite number 3, but, we started debating. But anyway, like I said, brokerage model. In 2017, I started crushing real estate, and that took off pretty good. And that certainly grew my audience dramatically in the eyes of realtors. Some owners and leaders saw it, but the owners and leaders really started following me once I started doing the videos on the ridiculous, blood-sucking, judicially sanctioned extortion cases in October of 2024. And that wasn't even my intent. My intent was just to give it back a little, and then it kind of snowballed. Here I am. But I appreciate you admitting that it's overdue that I'm on here, because honestly, I was starting to feel a little left out.
Well, we were just trying to build an audience first before we got canceled. So I figured we've gone long enough.
Yeah. And we needed an audience and a legal defense budget. And now we have both. So we can have you.
Well, I'm here and I'm happy to be here.
Let's go. I can already tell this is going to be a good one. Okay. We asked these of all of our guests the first time they're on. Favorite book or podcast this year, ever, last 12 months, whatever, but something that you would want to recommend people to read or listen to.
Favorite book ever is probably The Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki. Mm-hmm. I read that when I was about 20 years old, and I'd say it had profound impact on my plans. Another favorite book of mine is Donald Rumsfeld, Known and Unknowns. That was very good. The past Secretary of Defense. But recently, as of last week, I don't know if you guys saw, I put it on my Instagram. I read Abby Holliday's book that was written about her.
Yeah.
What was the name of it?
I will tell you.
Abby Holliday, the real estate broker.
Abby Holliday, the real estate broker, lived to like 104 years old, built Abby Holliday companies. I was really impressed. And I was already impressed with her. Sad that I never got to meet her. I was kind of coming in when she was going out. But what an impressive story. What an incredibly impressive woman. So when you ask favorite book year to date, definitely my favorite book year to date.
Wow.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Love it.
They were in Texas. She was in Texas, right? If I remember correctly.
Texas. They're still there. And they were purchased by Home Services maybe a decade ago.
Yeah.
But really impressive organization to this date. I know the president, Betsy Cameron, wonderful woman. Chris Kelly was the president. He moved on. Now he's taking Gino's job, it sounds like. A lot of good people there. And they're part of leading RE with us. So I can't say enough. The book, I mean, for the women that watch this podcast, really anybody should read it, especially leaders. But for women in particular, if you are interested in learning about woman power or an extraordinary female, you've got to read that book. I don't care what business you're in.
Yeah, that's funny you mentioned that, because she is a legend, and I never had a chance to spend time with her either. But built an amazing company. Even till today, obviously is, but it was a powerhouse for a long period. All right, here's mine, Anthony. You could have lunch with one person, current or historical. Who would it be? I'm really curious for your answer.
At this moment, it would be Scott Bessonant, the Secretary of Treasury.
Interesting.
I am someone who, since September 11, 2001, has been a political junkie. I've read every major cabinet member's book and every president and vice president book all the way back to Reagan. And when I look at the Trump administration, I am particularly impressed with the Secretary of Treasury, Bessonant. And if I could have lunch with one person right now, it would be him. I would say second to him. Normally, my answer probably would have been Jamie Dimon, JP Morgan Chase CEO. Mm-hmm. Met him a year and a half ago, talked to him for about 4 or 5 minutes. Real nice guy, obviously very talented. Yeah. But that'd be my answer.
Did you listen to the best? Did you listen to the best interview on the All In Pod? They did a pretty good 1 hour interview with him. It was interesting.
I did.
Yeah, it was a good one. That was a good interview.
Yeah.
All right, let's get into the meat of it. So my first question for you, because why not lead off with a grand slam on this one? So you did the debate with Michael Ketchmark. And give us the background on how all that came together and like
Sure.
what that was like. I mean, we saw it, but like what it was like prepping and then how it's all gone down after. You've been very vocal about your position before, during, and especially after, because what you said would happen happened. So,
Well, yeah. I mean, my predictions on what would take place, with buyers, with sellers, with buyers never ending up being the ones to pay commissions directly, I was right about all of that. And you didn't have to be a genius to be right about that. It was pretty simple. No buyer says, "Hey, agent, please take me and show me the properties that I'll have to pay you out of pocket." And that's something that I talked about a lot. I talked about the fiduciary duty of the agent, making clear to the buyers, what they would be on the hook for, and sellers being clear with their sellers on what will cause an attraction of buyers to their home and what won't. So that's on sort of the sales side. On the industry and legal matters, I genuinely feel very strongly that it is truly judicially sanctioned extortion. I felt like that before, during, and after. And that is also proving to be right. I mean, what has really changed? Sellers were paying the vast majority of the commissions for decades. Here we are post-settlement, right? And we see Ketchmark and all these other people. Doug Miller, that clown up in Michigan, thinks he's so smart. He's out there, buyers should pay and this and that. Well, here we are post-settlement. Every damn settlement statement that I see, over 95% of the time, sellers are paying it and buyers are requesting it through their offer to purchase, through their purchase contract, et cetera. So what in the hell changed other than creating a less transparent system? That's what was created. Okay. And I know you guys might not want to comment on it and all that, but I don't really give a damn.
No, I've been pretty vocal. Like, it's
no, I know.
Yeah.
Listen.
So just ask the question. Just ask the question. Why is it less transparent?
Well, we were operating in a place that whatever a seller wanted to offer, which a seller rightfully should be able to offer, a seller should not be prohibited from offering a compensation to someone who brings them a buyer for any product in the world. Okay. So now because they want to be able to say, "Hey, I didn't just make 300 million. Remember when I told Ketchmark in the debate, you and your lawyer friends stand to make $300 to $400 million. And he said, "No, your numbers are wrong. Your numbers are wrong." Where did they end up? Tanya just put it out.
333 million as of today.
Okay. Oh yeah. Right. Exactly. 333 million. So they want to not just hear people talk about that. They also want to show that they caused some change. So now for 8 years, we're going to operate on a system where the commissions don't go in the MLSs. Okay. Now buyers are going to ask for it through their offers and purchase contracts. And I got news for you, and I'll say it on here. I haven't really said it publicly. Commissions are going up. Okay. Agents now are all practicing, how to have this conversation more often and be able to comfortably articulate it. And that's causing agents to have the tenacity to go for more, just like all salespeople do in all industries in the world.
Well, and if the real estate market continues to slow down and starts to shift towards a buyer's market, well, then really watch out what's going to happen, because now these buyers, the agents representing the buyer, the leverage shifts. And it's been a long time since agents have experienced that.
Keith, I thank you for saying that, because I feel like I'm the only one pointing that out sometimes.
Yeah.
And, look at Miami right now. Okay. They have tower after tower with condos that aren't selling. You know what the developers are doing? And these developers are from Italy, and they're from Argentina, and they're from Miami. And you know what they're all doing? Offering out large compensations to buyer brokerages that bring buyers. Okay. When you're a buyer and you hear that a seller's taking care of the compensation, it naturally creates more of an attraction. It does. That's the way the world goes round. So, as I said, the whole thing's a ripoff. The whole thing's a scam. Okay. But it is what it is. And we have to learn to play by the rules. And our company has done that. And we've even, like you guys, and I credit you. And it's funny, we all sort of decided, a handful of us decided this without ever talking. Yeah. We say, we don't want to deal and we don't want to offer broker-to-broker compensation. I know this is a last summer conversation, but we're not doing it. We took it a step further. There's other things we took a step further. I mean, we have to protect our company. What's kind of funny is I learned a lot doing the debate, and I haven't answered James' question yet, and I will. But one of the things that I learned in doing the debate and in the months following is the realtor audience loved me. My fan base grew by 100 times. And leaders in the industry, I don't think I've ever gotten so many genuine thank yous and whispers of, I love you, thank you so much. But there also was a percentage of people that felt that I overdid it and felt that I was unprofessional or this and that, which is a bunch of bullshit. But that's how they felt. Okay. And they're allowed to feel that way. But when I started speaking more, about how we were going to practice here at Lamacchia, I know that some of those haters, including the enemy who was probably hoping to sue my company, they were like, oh shit, Lamacchia is going to adhere and he's going to actually go a step further. And some of them were surprised, which is laughable because it's like, did you guys actually think I don't know what I'm doing? Did you actually think I don't know? I just fell out of the sky and created a company that closed 5,000 transactions last year, sales transactions, if you include rentals, 6,000. I fell out of the sky one day and it just got, hey, Anthony, take this company. No, I built it from the ground up. I built it from nothing. I started one sale at a time. So I actually have an idea of what I'm doing. And my general counsel was the general counsel for the Mass Association of Realtors for years. He's highly knowledgeable. And him and I and my senior advisor, Jerry, we kind of have an idea of what we're doing. So they were disappointed to see me follow the settlement and even take a few things a step further. Now, to get back to James' question, how did the debate come about? The debate came about because I did several videos where I said in the videos, and CNBC and all the news stations put me, Good Morning America, put me on an opposite chair of Michael Ketchmark and let me rebuttal him because I'm so tired of seeing him on the news talking about how bad our industry is and how bad realtors are. And because that's what pissed me off. If you go back and look, I didn't do a single video on the cases until October 18th, 2023. Mm-hmm. Okay. Not one. I never even brought it up. And it's because on October 17th, I was sitting on my couch watching Ketchmark on CNBC talk about realtors and call us a cartel, and it pissed me off. When I saw that, I said, okay, he's got a big mouth, but he's smart and he can talk. On our side, we don't have that many people that are good at mouthing off on camera. You guys are pretty good at it. James is great at it. I happen to be, I can't spell for shit, but I can talk and I can talk on camera. I've been on television 19 years. I've done over 250 live television interviews. I'm by far and away the biggest real estate expert on television in our market. And I said, he wants to talk shit. And now I'm going to. And I started doing the videos. And so this is the best part of the story. The day after Thanksgiving, 6 weeks later, I was probably 8 videos in. I did like a couple a week and they were pretty long. And my marketing people were like, Anthony, these videos, they're getting watched to the end. They're getting like 75% of the audience watching the whole video. So we knew the audience was eating it up. So I get an email from the reception and they say, Anthony, a Michael Ketchmark called from Ketchmark in McCright. And I tried to get more information and I tried to see who could help him, but he wouldn't answer very many questions. And he simply said, believe me when I tell you, Anthony knows who I am and he'll call me back. So I get this email and I call him up and we talk for 16 minutes. And I'll say the same thing I've said all along. The guy is very smart. He's very capable. He's very good at what he does. He's charming. And he has all the traits necessary to do what he did. Okay. So I call him up and I let him talk. He bathed me in compliments for the first minute. You're better than all those $1,500 an hour lawyers. You're more well-spoken. And then he goes on to tell me that his brother-in-law, which I thought was pretty cool. His brother-in-law probably watched this. His brother-in-law is a retired police officer who sort of keeps an eye on things for Michael in the public domain. And his brother-in-law played the video, my latest video, at the Thanksgiving table the day before during dessert. And he says, Anthony, half my family hates you and half my family likes you. And he goes, my brother-in-law thinks you're great. And I said, well, why does he think I'm great? He goes, well, let's just say not very many people want to bump up against me under the basketball hoop, if you know what I mean. So anytime my brother-in-law sees someone who's willing to give it back to me as he is to me, he has respect for them. And that's why I'm calling you. And I said, well, thanks for all the compliments, Mike. I said, but I just want to say, if you are calling me like a shark trying to bump up against your prey before you attack, I'm just going to tell you, and I don't mean it in a threatening manner, but I will terrorize you and the plaintiffs if you sue me. I will terrorize you. I won't be like these defendants that are being all professional and fighting the way they're fighting. I will terrorize. And he goes, that's clear, but I want to talk to you about the case. I said, go ahead. And then he went on to tell me things that he thought I was wrong on in my videos, or maybe that he thought I misinterpreted, I should say. And then he also said, I got to say, you point out a lot of flaws in my case. And he said, you're helping me. And I think he probably said that hoping that I would stop, but he didn't want to tell me to stop. But anyway, we talked for 16 minutes. He told me at the end, I just want to tell you, you've offered to debate me. I will debate you anywhere, anytime. Okay. I know you're a talker. I'm a talker. I don't back down. You don't back down. He said, if anybody in the industry wants us to debate, let me know. There was a little talk about Inman having a debate. I think Brad posted about it. It was about having Michael on, and that sort of fizzled. And then Housing Wire had interest, and I told them I'll reach out to Michael. I got a cell phone number. I'll text him. I texted him, and we set it up, and we had the debate. And, you know, a lot of people felt that, not a lot, a small percentage of people felt that I overdid it. But I was on there mainly to out the bullshit, out the corruption, and that's what I did. And I was hoping the mainstream media would pick it up. And so far, I haven't achieved that goal. But Hannah just filed in the Eighth Circuit.
Speaking of mainstream media, and I'll let you finish, but do you want to debate Deborah Kamen?
I would love to, but I don't think she would, because she, like Doug Miller, like Robert Hahn, likes to give it out, but isn't willing to take it. Okay. Rob Hahn, I call him the notorious real estate gaslighter. Okay. He went on Twitter and accused me of a criminal act last May. And I rebutted many times, and then he blocked me. It's like, dude, you can't give it out. And it's like, okay, I do I don't usually get into it on podcasts, but I've been involved in mixed martial arts. I wrestled as a kid. And if you're willing to give it, you got to be willing to take it. Right? And Deborah Kamen blocked me on Twitter, on Instagram, etc. So if Deborah Kamen wants to debate me, I would be happy to.
Just in case someone doesn't know, who is Deborah Kamen?
I can tell them. Yeah. She's a gaslighting New York Times reporter who spews lies all the time about our industry.
I don't think that's her actual byline, but it's close enough. It's close.
It should be. I mean, listen, you know, I feel very passionate about defending our industry.
For sure.
You know, these people attack our industry. Just yesterday, she put out a podcast from earlier this week.
Oh, it was bad.
Did you see?
Oh, yeah. It was ridiculous, for sure. Yeah. 90% of that thing was complete, utter freaking nonsense. So,
and you know, I have to give Ketchmark some credit, even though he annoyed me 3 months ago, and he sort of came out, or a month ago, he came out threatening a bit on CCP. And then I don't know if, I'm sure you guys noticed, you did notice, Doug Miller came out on the other side. But at least with Ketchmark, he mouthed off a bit during the case, which is kind of a smart thing to do on his side, right? I mean, it is, right? Yeah. In my opinion, all those defendants should have had a news conference every afternoon, and they should have told the truth. Like, hey, the plaintiff's attorneys were given waters to the jury. They were given tissues. They're connected to the judge. They're connected to the judge's wife. All those things that I mentioned in the debate, that now Hannah mentioned many of them in their appeal for a new judge, that I said before anybody, okay, the defendants should have been saying when they walked out of the courtroom. And they weren't. But Ketchmark was smart. The point I was getting at is, at least Ketchmark, he mouthed off a bit. We did the debate. He toned it down. Yeah, he's been in a couple articles, but he's gone away, right? Pretty much. Cayman, she comes out this week with a podcast saying it's a workaround. The realtors have found a workaround. No, they didn't violate the contract by offering compensation in other places. The settlement says you can't offer it in the MLSs. That was the agreement.
Hey, I have a question for you. This is actually relevant, and thank you for all of that. This is making my Friday really, really eventful and joyous today. You actually made a really good point. You've made a lot of them, but this one I think people might miss.
What do you mean, actually?
What do you mean, actually?
No, I think this is important because I think people are going to miss this. Nobody was saying anything. The defendant lawyers weren't saying anything publicly. They were completely quiet. Associations weren't saying anything. Everyone was so locked down by their lawyers, and there was no public PR. It was incredibly minimal. And then, and I think what you were getting at is no one was sticking up for the industry. You were.
Correct.
You were out there like advocating, saying this is bullshit, this is made up. The industry got so scared. And I'm tying this to this comment about, Deborah. Why is it that the industry isn't pushing back on her? Where is this? There's just stuff that's just blatantly, that's just defamation. Like it's it's straight up defamation, some of the things that she's doing. Now, I don't understand why after this loss with the class action, the industry is still too quiet. What do you have thoughts on that?
No, it frustrates me. I think, like you said, a lot of people, the big company CEOs, the public company CEOs, they are often controlled by their law firms and their in-house counsels. Our dear friend Leo Pereira at EXP, he's pretty vocal. And I like
he's
to see
the
that,
most vocal for publicly traded company,
no question.
For sure.
Yeah. And that's also partly because Leo is by far and away the most knowledgeable real estate public company CEO out there. I mean, he that guy sat behind tables with, in buyers and sellers for years. And so he gets it at a level that I do, that you do, et cetera. But I think the reason is just what you said. It's fear. And really, the only people that give it back to these people now are you and I. I was probably the first one, but you and I, and you do a terrific job. You do a terrific job at it, and it drives me nuts. Others have jumped on the bandwagon and everything, but I don't see why the New York Times isn't being sued. I don't understand it. At some point, NAR needs to sue them for defamation, for slander, for interference with our business. It needs to happen. And when I look at the settlement and I think about some of the reasons that they wouldn't sue, I certainly understand that it is much easier for Anthony Lamacchia, James Dwiggins, people like us to say, I'm going to melt off, and if I get sued, well, it's on me, right? That's been my position from the beginning, and I knew I was risking getting sued. The risk probably has gone down a bit since the time, certainly with respect to the lawsuit, because I was under the $2 billion in those days. Over it now, yes, I'm over it, and I don't have a problem saying that. I'm not one of these company leaders that isn't going to submit my numbers and anything. I don't hide from anywhere. They want to sue me, come sue me. Just know you're going to be in for a goddamn bout, okay? So just want to point that out. But the fear is obviously what does it. Now, when you're running a trade organization, I'll admit I've learned a lot observing how NAR has handled it. And, I am in contact with them a lot. The president is in my company. There's no secret. We don't talk as much as people think. And we certainly don't. I mean, Kevin is like a vault. He tells me pretty much nothing. Nothing in advance, nothing that he's supposed to keep confidential. He doesn't tell me, period, ever. Not even a 2-hour heads up. Sometimes I'm kind of like, damn, could you hook me up sometime? But that's Kevin, right? But I've learned and I've observed, in full disclosure, I'm the broker liaison there this year. And I enjoy doing that. And I enjoy being involved, but I'm not here speaking to all of you in my capacity as broker liaison. I'm here as Anthony Lamacchia, broker owner of Lamacchia Realty and owner of Crusher Real Estate. So it's harder for them to do that. But to me, at some point here, the association has to sue the New York Times because a number of things happen when you sue. And the plaintiff's attorneys understand this. And Ketchmark, if he watches this, he'll be shaking his head. Yes. When you sue, you make it so the lawyers on the other side cause attention to the issue. and they start saying to the people that are doing something that is either wrong or maybe wrong, hey guys, what are you doing here? Right? Doesn't mean you have to have a perfect case. It doesn't mean you have to be right. I mean, let's face it. We live in a litigious country. We live in a litigious society. Companies sue companies all the time, knowing damn right well that they don't have a perfect case. Okay, they do. They do. And it is a tactic that is necessary sometimes. Okay, we have 3 lawsuits right now, and one looks like it's getting settled. And one of the lawyers in the 3 lawsuits went into Superior Court, northern Massachusetts, a few weeks ago and says, Lamacchia sues everyone. Really? Really? We have 900 people in our companies. We served 6,000 last year, so we indirectly we're in business contact with over 10,000. We have 3 lawsuits. We don't sue everyone. But when it is necessary to defend our company, defend our agents, defend sometimes our clients, we do it. And when we do it, we're not nice about it. We're not. That's how it works. We try to work out amicably, but then when we go to war, we go to war. At some point here, NAR needs to do that. Because if they do that, the legal side of New York Times is going to say, whoa, what are you doing here, Deborah? They're going to go to Deborah's boss or boss's boss, and it's going to put a microscope on her work.
I mean, I did a post, and I haven't done one since, not because I'm scared of people's opinions on it, I could care less, but I did a post on Deborah's bio on the New York Times where she claims that real estate has the largest pay gap in the United States. And I was stuck on it. I was like, first of all, if that is true, then we need to fix that. But then I was like, where's the data on this? And so, Anthony, my wife's an investigative reporter for CVS. So we started digging on it because we were just curious. My wife contacted all of the sources that she used to try and actually create that information. And it was so completely blatantly inaccurate that her bio talks about our industry in a way that is factually incorrect. And so I made a post on this and just got hammered online about, bringing this subject up. And I'm like, I believe that if a journalist is doing something, they need to be held to the facts. That's why people don't trust journalists anymore, because it's just information made up. And it's amazing to me how much stuff that she puts out that is just completely 100% biased and factually incorrect. And she keeps doing it. And I'm actually in your camp. I think somebody needs to file a suit so that it's like the New York Times goes, whoa, we got to rein in this journalist. We don't need any more, we don't need any more litigation than what we've already received. But I listened to that Daily Show podcast or whatever it was called. And I was just 2 minutes into it, I was like, that's wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong. So it's very frustrating.
Okay. All right. Hold on. Okay. I got 2 things. One, we'll put the link to that podcast in the show notes in case anybody wants to listen to it. You can form your own opinion. 2, just so we have a podcast, because you 2 agreeing with each other into a microphone isn't that interesting.
Yeah. Okay? Fight me. Go.
Yeah. So I respect you both very much. I will take the other side of this argument. Fellas, can we start talking about selling houses again? Like, I'm so sick and tired of talking about lawsuits and journalists and rants, 7-minute video rants and social media posts. Like, when do we get back to serving the human beings and just back to focusing on our clients?
Well,
you're right about that.
We're trying to, though, Keith, and just to play, since we're arguing, let's do it. Mm-hmm. We're trying to do that. That's what we do every day, but we have people that are out there falsifying what we actually do as a profession, which ends up causing people to make decisions that aren't good for themselves. Like, there's 90% of realtors, 95% of realtors are out there just in the trenches trying to get people through it. And now as they're reading information on websites or, what they believe is an accurate source about just things that are factually wrong, it makes it harder for us to do that job. So I'm of the opinion that we do need to push back when these things are inaccurate and not just go, well, it is what it is. That's just my take. So.
Well, I wasn't saying, since we're going to do this, I wasn't saying just it is what it is. There's somewhere between it is what it is and it's all the industry wants to talk about, right? Like, for agents, for example, look, I get it. We're all leaders, right? And it's really our job to be loud about these sorts of things. But for agents, like, I think it's a mistake for agents to go onto their social media and just start blasting the competition incessantly, right? Like, I'd rather they be the voice in their local market for people who are trying to time the market, or what are the down payment assistance programs for their local municipality, or a million other things that are more impactful for their sphere of influence and for the people who they're trying to be the voice for. I think that there's a chance, I actually don't, but I'm just trying to make this an interesting podcast. I think there's a chance that many agents are over indexing for the drama and losing sight of their clients and what they do for a living, which is shepherd people through a stressful transaction.
I don't agree. The masses of agents, they want to sell. They want to be busy. Mm-hmm. Last summer, coming into the August 17th timeline of them agents worrying about getting paid, they had a lot of attention on these issues. But once they realized, oh, wait, if I work with my buyer and my buyer wants to ask the seller to pay my compensation, all the sellers pretty much all are agreeing to it. I think agents backed off of it a lot. But
it's funny, just to double click on that. I was at an industry event. God, I guess it was Monday. Man, what a week it's been. I was at an industry event on Monday. They showed the most, I'm screwing up the phrasing, but it was like the most common question from a year ago. And it was all about the settlement and how do we approach it. And then 1 year later, it was the last thing anyone was worried about. It was funny to see the survey results.
Because once they knew they were going to get paid and it was okay to write it in offers and all that, I think it blew over. Now, obviously, the big topic is CCP, mm-hmm. and which in my eyes is pretty much game over. I mean, Zillow crushed that. They ended it, mm-hmm. right? I don't think anyone's given Refkin the memo yet in his circle that like, hey, dude, it's over. Like, you lost the battle. And he's taking it seems so personally, which I don't really understand. It's a policy matter that leaders in the industry are debating, which that stuff happens. Mm-hmm. But he seems to be taking it very personally. He seems to be attacking NAR, which I don't really understand why. But, it is what it is. But the stuff that you were saying, Keith, about being in touch with your sphere and educating your clients and all that, that's exactly the toughest stuff that I built Crush It in Real Estate on.
Right.
Is me doing videos, teaching agents, like, these are the things you need to do. When you educate, you attract, blah, blah, blah. And that's the lane that I stayed in until I saw Ketchmark on CNBC. Right. And then I said, okay, I'm going to break this case apart. I'm going to explain the flaws. And then I sort of got pulled into this policy road. Now, you guys laughed at me when I had a cocky moment 10 minutes ago and I said, hey, I was first before James. I was. But James does better than me now at carrying on about the policy matters. I don't talk about it as much. And he has gone further down that road, and he does a good job. And
Anthony,
I agree with him on just about every topic. Just about.
I want to do a few
little disagreements.
I want to do one thing here. So, Keith, just to answer your comment, I agree with you, by the way. I just also think that we can walk and chew gum. I think there should be intermixing when things are inaccurate. We should make some posts about why they're inaccurate, not attack them. Let me do that. The local agents need to be talking about this isn't, if you've heard this podcast, these are the things that are incorrect, and let's focus on the markets. I just think there needs to be more conversation there. But Anthony, I want to make this point because you're taking us into the CCP debate, and I'm not going to talk about it much. Everybody's heard my opinions. I want to get your take, but I also would, just for time's sake, you did on a video that I watched, I think it was about a week ago, where you laid out the scripting to combat this, CCP, this office exclusives is better than the MLS charade that's going on. And I thought it was really, really good. Can you first give us your opinion on this, because you're in a different market and people need to hear like your take on it, but then also like how you're teaching your people to go on a listing presentation and talk about this to sellers. I thought it was really well done. And I think people should hear it on a very wide audience as well on our side.
Yeah, that was a video. So that video,
we'll link to it, by the way, in the show notes for everybody to watch, but I just would still like you to do it here. So
there were two videos that I did. The first one was talking about what Zillow had decided and put out, and the whole CCP thing. And then a week later I did, okay, if you are an agent and you are on a listing appointment competing for a listing against someone who is at a company that is claiming to the seller that, hey, you're better off staying off market and just staying with us. and we'll put it in our exclusive system and not go public. Well, not every agent at Compass is doing that. Not every agent is doing that anywhere. But if you run up against that, here's what I would do. And then in the video, I broke down, I think I used data from SEMrush and you had used data from ComScore or one of those companies.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, I don't give a damn how powerful any of our websites are in the brokerage space. None of us, we pale in comparison to Zillow. It's not even close. So what I showed is, because I always teach in my trainings, and we sell our training, we sell Crush It in Real Estate training all over North America. We have customers at every company from here to the Pacific. Okay. And I always talk about showing, not just telling, because when you're an agent and you explain something to a buyer or a seller, there's always a part of their brain that's like, he's being a salesperson. She's being a salesperson. So we created a bar graph and we said, this is what you use. And between that and some of the other data in there, we said, leave your email if you want it. And we emailed it out to hundreds of people. So we're happy to share that video. No problem at all.
Awesome.
So you basically went through, just for context, you went through showing the data on the different sites. There was an analogy that somebody posted the other day, which I thought was interesting. They said you should look up the percentage of market share of the companies that are doing this, and then use the opposite. So let's say one company has 10% market share and you're talking to the seller about, so then the other 90% of the industry won't be able to see it. So it's minority, majority. And then there's that story that, I posted from the lady who wrote an article about how she would have lost $100,000 had she gone with the original offer that was made, which was at the price she was asking. But then she had a reality check of, well, if I had put it on the open market and if only 2 people saw it, what if 50 people did? Could I get more money? Which made $100,000 more. This is a really interesting points to include in your listing presentation when you're talking about this subject to sellers.
Oh, of course it is. And listen, we all understand that there are some off-market sales, and sometimes, in rare cases, a seller will say, you know what, I just want to take this offer. I'm good. Of course. We also, many of us, our companies, many of the competitors out there in our company, we have a system called Lamacchia links. And our biggest state, Massachusetts, where I started it, where I'm sitting right now, our particular MLS allows to list weeks after getting signed up if you get a delayed form signed. So we put our listings in the link system, and a few times a month they match, and there's an actual sale from the matching. It's more than a few times a month that there's a match, but a few times a month there's a sale. Okay, fine. None of us are disputing that. We understand why Compass and other companies are occasionally pushing an off-market list. Hey, buyer, in a low inventory market, when you tell buyers, hey, we have a list of properties before they get listed, that attracts buyers. You create buyer leads. I get it. But what they're proposing and what Robert is talking about goes a lot further than that. And eliminating CCP would have allowed going dramatically further than that. And that would not be good for buyers and sellers. And that's why I was against undoing it. And I can't even say that I'm happy with the, off-market exclusive something
Demo,
that NAR came up with.
Delayed marketing exempt
Delayed
listing.
I don't even
Keith
think
and I
they should have come
trademarked
up with
that
it.
demo, by the way. So we get 10% royalty.
I don't know if you can get a trademark from just taking the first letters.
I understand why NAR did what they did. I can't say I love it, but I understand why they did it. When they make the decisions, they take all the arrows. And on this one, NAR is coming out looking like a rose. Yeah. They avoided we are going to keep CCP, period. Now Zillow come out and said, if you're not willing to hold the line, we will. And I got news for Compass and some of the others that think they want to challenge it. Taking on Zillow is a lot harder than taking on some smaller players. Those dudes are the real deal, and they have big money, and they have many businesses, and they aren't scared. They won't fight like the defendants in the Sitzer case. No. They'll be a lot different.
They laid the gauntlet down the other day by now, if you're doing the office exclusive and you market it publicly in any way, it's not just a ban from their website in New York City. It's you can no longer purchase any of our products and services. In other words, you can't get lead gen from us anymore. That's a big, to me, that's a shot across the bow because they selectively picked New York, which is obviously the epicenter of this because you've got 3 companies that are doing that now, Compass, Douglas, Element, and Corcoran. But the fact that they're basically saying, oh, agents who get all your lead gen from Street Easy, yeah, it ain't happening anymore if you want to continue. So, I mean, it is there's a lot of sides of this debate. Keith and I did an interview with Errol Samuelson, by the way, which we'll put in the link as well for those of you who didn't get to see that. But I mean, you're right, Anthony. They're a big player. Everyone, we're not, by the way, I can speak for the 3 of us. We're not unaware that Zillow has their own business initiatives and interest in doing this. Duh.
So
yeah. And at the same time,
so don't the plaintiff's attorneys.
Right. But I will say, because Keith and I did have the opportunity to spend time with the leadership team on this, while that is obviously part of their decision, I don't actually believe personally that was the reason for their decision. I genuinely believe that they are looking at this direction as harmful to sellers and buyers. I've spent enough time where I genuinely believe that. I could be naive, but I think that's a significant part of their equation. So
I agree with you on that. And I'll tell you something. I used to be on Zillow's advisory panel 10 years ago, or board or whatever it was called. And I've banged heads with them here or there over the years with cost of leads or some of the things they require. But I'll tell you something. When I first got involved with them 12, 13 years ago, they used to say the consumers are North Star. They've lived that way the whole time. And the fact of the matter is they have the consumers. And I want to make one last point about Zillow. What I said 3 minutes ago about a company trying to take them on. Like you see Compass sued Northwest MLS, right? They sue Zillow. That ain't going to be a walk in the park. Mm-hmm. Just what Zillow did nationally with their new policy that's obviously coming out in the weeks to come. They said May 1st, but by the time it's in order, it's probably June. Just what they did. And now what they did as a second punch, it's a 1-2 punch in New York City, proves exactly my point. These guys that run Zillow, I've met them both. I can't say I know them, but I've met them. I've spent some time with them. Rich and Lloyd, they're the real deal. I don't always agree with them. But if Compass thinks they're going to take Zillow on, you talk about naive.
Well, you're also you got one other thing to add into that because Redfin following the same path, and that's going to be Rocket, and Rocket has twice as much cash as Zillow. So I mean, that is
and let me tell you, in Rocket, okay, Dan's no joke. I remember 15 years ago. You guys might not remember, but I remember when Fannie, Freddie, FHA, they sued all the mortgage lenders. In 2009, remember Obama came in and the fat cats on Wall Street, all that. They sued all the lenders. Dan, the founder of Rocket, said, we're not settling. We're fighting to the death. We didn't do anything wrong. You asked us to ease up limits. You asked us to make it easier for people to buy homes. We did it. Now you're suing us. 3 or 4 years later, they won the case. So whatever. That's my comments there.
All right, Keith, take us home.
I will put a bow on this. This is a question we ask every guest at the end. If you were an agent or a brokerage, which is funny because you are both, what's the one thing you'd implement today to help your business?
I would be, if I was still selling, which I'm not, I haven't sold a home personally since 2011. If I was still selling, I would be absolutely fanatical about being in touch with my clients that bought homes from me in the last year, 2 years, 3 years, up to 6, 7 years, because there are millions of people across the United States that are sitting on their hands, waiting for interest rates to come down.
With huge
So
equity.
I would be huge. I would be doing everything from client parties, which, by the way, I'm going to get back to. I got away from my sphere of influence client party during COVID. I'm probably doing one later this year. But I would be fanatically in touch with them. I would never, Alan Dalton, great guy, does some consulting with us. He was the one that, Ketchmark used a snippet of a video that didn't even, they totally took out of context. But Alan says, don't say past clients. He's right. Fanatically be in touch with those people because they're going to come around in droves. And I'll say the same thing here that I said on my Crushing in Real Estate stage at my annual event in January. America is going to see the biggest housing boom that it has ever seen by the end of this decade. Might take an extra year or two to get there, but when we get to the later years of this decade and the early years of the next, we are going to see an amount of home sales annually that we've never seen. Never seen. We're going to be breaking records, 7-8 million a year. Quote me here today. Remember, I said it because it's going to happen. There's too much pent up demand. Right. The market can't stay this. I'm going to be right. I'm going to be right. You go back and look at my predictions, and the haters that are watching this that think I don't know what I'm talking about, you idiots, okay, that are out there watching this, go look at my predictions during COVID. Go watch my videos the first 2 weeks in COVID when everybody and their mother said, this is the 08, prices are going to fall. I wrote a blog that said, this is not 2008. And I put charts and graphs, and I methodically explained why prices wouldn't fall and how everyone was wrong. And I'll never forget my dad, my biggest supporter, who called me one day and he said, I just heard you on that Facebook thing. And I heard you say prices aren't going down. Are you telling me you know more than the Wall Street Journal? A reporter yesterday wrote an article how prices are going to go down. I said, Dad, if that's what the reporter said, the reporter was wrong. My predictions weren't wrong. My predictions were right, and they're generally pretty darn good. So the people out there, the 5% of the industry that thinks I'm a hitman, industry hitman, and a badass and a big mouth, you're right about the big mouth. But go look at my predictions, and you'll pay a little better, closer attention to me. And by the way, I mentioned earlier that I got accused by Mr. Hahn of a criminal activity. I just want to, for the record, say I proved him wrong. I ate his law degree, and in the end, I was right, and he admitted it. So thank you. He didn't say Anthony was right, I was wrong, but he admitted it, and I have a video. And if we could put that in the show notes, that would be terrific.
Anthony, I just want to thank you
I'm only mentioning it. This is the 12-month anniversary of mine and Rob's little spat. I will say I tweeted 3 weeks ago. James saw it, and I said, Rob, I kind of miss you. So
I don't know how to end, but I know we should have Anthony on once a quarter. That's what I know.
I needed this today. I just needed all of this today. So Anthony, that was awesome. Great to have you on the show. It was everything I expected and more. I'm sure that our viewers and listeners are enjoying the smile on their face after watching this. So we appreciate all of your candor, your humor, and how humble you are. So we do appreciate that too. So very much.
Listen,
anyways.
I want to say thank you both. You guys do a terrific job with this podcast. You have very good guests on it. You put a significant amount of time into this podcast. James puts 4 times the amount of time into, talking about and bringing up issues.
Yeah.
You don't know. No, I'm being serious. You put in a significant amount of time. You're helping our industry. You guys are good for our industry. And I want to sincerely thank you for that. And I want to sincerely thank you for having me on today. I very much enjoyed it. I don't think you'll get canceled based on anything I said. I think we might hear from a couple grumpy people, but
that's all right.
Oh, well.
That's the beautiful part about free speech. So, all right, my friend, we'll look forward to having you back again. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, guys. Have a great day.
You too.
We need you to subscribe to this podcast because you need us to keep saying the things that nobody else will say out loud.